Alright, so before I put out a series of, like, end of the year 2016 movie videos that I want to do, I gotta catch up on a bunch of reviews, because I realized there were a crap ton of movies that I saw that I just never reviewed. There are 2 movies I haven't reviewed that are gonna end up on my top 10 list, just because, and I don't have much to say about them, so I'll just save it for there. But for the most part, I don't think any of these are gonna be on the list. Now, the opening song in Sausage Party that they're all singing when they first wake up is hilarious. I completely lost it. That song killed me. This movie, on the whole, is funny as hell. I laughed a lot during this movie, and I don't usually review comedies because I'm like, what is there to say other than you laughed a lot or you didn't laugh a lot? I know I'm going to anger some people by saying this, but I just don't think comedy can be on the same levels of entertaining as filmmaking as other genres of film. Primarily because you don't rewatch them, because the biggest aspect of comedies is the jokes, and once you've seen the jokes, once you've heard the jokes, the movie doesn't really have much to do for you. You can say the movie was a pretty hard R throughout until the end, which was just disgusting. But watching all the, like, the parody Saving Private Ryan scenes of all the food getting slaughtered in, like, stupidly unrealistic fashion was really entertaining. Because normally in, like, war movie when that happens, the violence is it's so gripping, you gotta watch it, but you, like, feel bad about it because you're like, oh, that's, like, real people getting, like, torn up. But I can't look away. This movie, you don't have to feel that way because it's food and it can get murdered all day long without a hint of ethical issues. And it was, on the whole, a fun movie, so I can give Sausage Party a 7 out of 10. Hell or High Water was a good bank robbery movie with good acting, in particular between Jeff Bridges and his Native American partner, which basically just started out with just him insulting him and making racist Native American jokes, but then by the end you're like, oh, holy shit. I thought the bank robbing scenes were very intense. This is basically a cross between No Country for Old Men and Place Beyond the Pines. Chris Pine is very good. Ben Foster is way better than he is in Warcraft, but at a certain point in the movie, I'm like, okay, Chris Pine, your brother is such an idiot dumbass who's clearly going to get you thrown into jail. Why are you even working with him in the first place? You could do this on your own. I think it's a very cool, modern, western kind of bank robbery movie, but I do think it's overrated, and I don't think it's really anything all that special. The confrontation between Chris Pine and Jeff Bridges at the end is pretty cool, though. The Nice Guys, Shane Black's movie that was actually more explicit than Neighbors 2. I saw both of those like the same weekend, and I expected Neighbors 2 to be the slutty college one, and Nice Guys to be like the classy, like classic-y noir film. Ryan Gosling's really good, Russell Crowe's really good. It's a very fun movie. Russell Crowe's character was especially cool because initially he seems like, you know, the broody kind of resort to violence character, but he's the one who's, like, covering his eyes when girls have their boobs out. And Ryan Gosling's the guy who's kind of a shitty person. The movie felt very classic because it takes place in, like, the 70s, and the movie simultaneously felt very unconventional. The movie also has the best roast I've seen of liberals and their stupid liberal crap in a while. And for that alone, the movie deserves an 8 out of 10. Ryan Gosling's daughter, too, that was running around with him, she was great. She was like a full-fledged third member of their little trio. Conjuring 2 was probably the best horror movie of the year. I mean, at the end of the day, plot-wise, it is nothing special, it's nothing ground. It is essentially another haunting movie. And I think the first Conjuring was super overrated. I wasn't a fan of the first Conjuring ever. Everybody's like, I wasn't really buying it until I actually saw it. Conjuring 2 is very, very good. And I think the biggest reason is the appreciation of what makes things scary. It does not rely on jump scares. I think there are begrudgingly a few, but for the most part, it's a lot of long, slow takes. The cinematography in particular is great. It establishes a sense of space in this house for, is the ghost over here, am I safe where I am? So that is very effective. Also a great little creepy nursery rhyme with the crooked man, I love those. And yes, I screamed like a little girl in that scene with the nun painting, that was scary as shit. And the soundtrack is a lot of deep, oh, yeah. And that's always free bonus points with me. Manchester by the Sea. This is a very old people movie for old people through and through. This is the Oscar-y filmiest of those. This is not like Deepwater Horizon or Patriots Day. It's not one of those accessible Oscar movies. This is gonna be like this year's Brooklyn, probably. Manchester by the Sea has Casey Affleck, and he's a handyman, and he goes around and he does stuff, but he's kind of a dick, and his brother dies, and his brother's kid is left an orphan. So essentially, the whole movie is Casey Affleck figuring out what to do, and he's trying to pawn off the kid on the other people that the family know, and nobody can take him. So, you know, they develop a bond and all that. This is another extremely well-acted, well-written movies where it's like, that does not feel like dialogue. This is not as entertaining and awesome as Tarantino's dialogue is. People don't talk like that. It's written to sound cool, not to be realistic. This movie, it's like, this just feels like people talking to each other. Like, it's one of those most, like, realistic, most lifelike movies out there. And it's also very depressing, and by the end you're just like, well, I'm sad now. I'm supposed to like movies. Movies supposed to be entertaining, right? Keep coming out of these movies all sad and depressed, mopey. The picture quality, though, fantastic. It's just really Casey Affleck shoveling snow or like a boat on the ocean, but it is clearly filmed on a very nice film projector type camera. There's no black bars and the quality is crystal clear. It does drag on way too long and it does seem kind of pointless by the end though, so Manchester by the Sea is going to get a 7. I don't know how or why I missed Don't Breathe. I saw it on time with all the rest of the movies. I guess it just wasn't in the mood to make a video because I completely forgot about it. I almost left it off this little list I made. I think the premise for Don't Breathe is actually quite cool. The fact that Stephen Lang is blind and he's this giant military badass, but he can't see. But he does know his house, and he knows his house very well. And how he figures out how people are by like, that shouldn't be there, that's not where that belongs, is very cool to see. So that's very well done. But the downfall of the movie is, as usual with horror tropes, jump scares galore, and also stupid inconsistencies that clearly try to help out the main characters for plot writing. It's like, okay, he's this ex-Special Forces crazy jacked buff killer guy. It's like, the moment he gets his hands on you, you should be dead. But they make it like, no, what is with this slapping and punching and throwing across the room bullshit? It's like, no, grab you, snap your neck, you're dead. And the ending was stupid as shit. So Don't Breathe is looking at about a 6 out of 10. Neighbors 2. Like I said, with comedies, for the most part, I don't like comedies, but like Sausage Party, the comedies I gravitate towards are the Seth Rogen ones. Seth Rogen's probably my favorite comedian. Like I said, his movies seem more professional. They are well acted and they are well shot. I mean, there's not much to say about Neighbors. I laughed frequently enough where I would say it was worth seeing. And I just really liked Zac Efron's character. His actions weren't of any hostility or hate. He chose the side he chose based on, like, who needed him the most. It was really weird, it made no sense, but it was cool. Okay, so the reason I watched this in the first place was because I was going to review it because I initially planned to cover Final Fantasy 15, and that is not happening, sorry. The Kingsglaive is a definite turn your brain off and appreciate the visuals kind of movie. For my first real official foray, because I haven't played any of the games, the first experience with Final Fantasy I had was watching this movie. The CGI is incredible. It is essentially a feature-length cinematic cutscene from one of these video games. And the battle scenes are crazy, ridiculously cool. But the only character who was even remotely good was Sean Bean, and of course, he dies. And by the end of the movie, I had no clue what the hell was going on. And also, the art style of Final Fantasy is just very jarring to me. It's like you'll have a guy in this full medieval plate armor, or in this like Victorian-esque kind of cape suit, like Assassin's Creed looking thing, and you'll have a guy next to him in a regular modern suit, wearing a watch, driving an Audi. It makes no sense. This mixing of medieval and modern just clashes with my suspension of disbelief so hard, and that took me out of the movie so often. It's like I couldn't decide if it wanted to be medieval fantasy or robot like cyberpunk sci-fi or modern, so it just did all of them. And you're gonna tell me that's Final Fantasy's thing. Well, then I guess I don't like Final Fantasy's 15 because that was just weird and took me out of the movie. And also, plot and story-wise, it's just not a very good movie. The action is good though, and it is fun to look at, so I guess I can give it a 6 out of 10. Collateral Beauty is getting hated on a lot because of a particularly misleading trailer. So a lot of people were probably like, this is not what I expected, and I don't like that. Now, I knew that going in, so I'm like, okay, alright. So the movie is pitched as this, like, modern-day Christmas Carol thing. Like, Will Smith is down in the dumps, and time, death, and love appear to him incarnate in people, personified, to, like, you know, get him through that trouble. And that's actually not the case. It's actually his friends hired actors to do that so that they could then record him on video and digitally remove the actors. It makes no sense. You know, I didn't even mind the fact that his friends were the ones hiring actors. What I minded was the stupid scene at the end where they admitted to the board of people they were trying to prove that he was incompetent to that they digitally removed the footage and that they hired actors. And even without that, like, your situation should be plenty evidence for Will Smith to get kicked out of his CEO position. Are you kidding me? All the times Bruce Wayne gets kicked out of his own company for stupid shit that doesn't even happen. Will Smith going in his office and playing with dominoes all day and refusing to speak to anybody was unbelievable as all hell. There is good acting in the movie. I like the idea of the movie. I particularly liked the relationship between Will Smith and this black woman that, like, starts the support group that they go with, and they have something kind of cool at the end. And the movie gets very, very heavy-handed, where it's like, I did not feel love, I became love, and it's like, f*** you. The movie is totally watchable, and I don't think it failed for the reasons other people think it failed, but it definitely could have been better. 6 out of 10. And that's all of them. There are 2 other movies that I will definitely be talking about in my top 10 list that I actually haven't reviewed.